you, but especially you in light of them smashing that trophy over you after all three of you stood out here and cheered on Coach Campanelli and her team.
Well, Coach, despite you breaking that trophy over my head 2 weeks ago, I stopped and I looked at myself in the mirror and I thought, what do I have to finally do to be deserving? All I wanted to do was just make you proud, Coach, and I really think that we deserve the same opportunity. So what I want you to do is put that trophy on the line.
Wait a minute, you screwed up. And you! And you!
All right, stop the finger pointing.
I'm sorry. Sometimes I forget how horrible you all are at your jobs. You're all horrible! Sorry. I mean, you are horrible, but I shouldn't have said it so loud.
All right, okay, that's enough of the
But you are!
Okay, enough. Stop.
How bad can everybody be?
You know, and we all have our 15 minutes of fame, and I'd like to take a couple of my 15 minutes to talk about the rights and the wrongs in the world of professional wrestling.
And it is for the WWE Championship.
This match is for the ECW World Heavyweight Championship. For the World Heavyweight Championship. The match and new NWA Heavyweight Champion.
We appreciate you guys coming out and taking your time to support women's wrestling in America.
This match is for the AWA World Heavyweight Wrestling Championship.
There are days when I can look at WoW and I'm perfectly fine and I enjoy everything that's going on with it, and I get surprised and I see good matches and everything kind of falls in place. I might not see that often, but I do see it. This is not one of those times. Episode 81 is not one of those times. How you doing, folks? This is Mr. Green. You are listening to the Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling Podcast. It is another week, another review for the episode of WoW that has recently passed by. It is, well, I guess I'll do the slate for that after I touch on everything else. There's not a lot of news going on, and surprisingly, when I came into this thing last week, I was trying to get through it, and through it quickly. But I couldn't do it because it was so much stuff that was going on that had to be talked about. So we will see where we fall this week, although I do not believe it should be as long, hopefully, knock on wood, just because I don't think there's a lot of news that's going on out there in the wrestling world as it relates to the women wrestlers. The big news, of course, as some of you big pro wrestling fans out there might know, is, of course, CM Punk and his sit-down interview with Ariel Helwani. Well, I guess we'll just consider this part of the news, views, and reviews. So we can put that into play as I speak. So anyway, that was probably the big news of the week. CM Punk getting on anyone's interview and discussing pretty well in depth his experiences with AEW. Essentially saying that the company does not operate under normal wrestling procedure, I guess. we'll say that it is not there to sell tickets or drive people to expand the viewership or get pay-per-views or make money. It's just there to be able to put on a show. That kind of sounds familiar. I wonder what other program in wrestling shares a similar outset. I don't know. Anyhow, as it relates to AEW also went through a list of people, surprisingly, that have been released. One of those being Dasha Kurit. Am I saying her last name there? Well, Dasha. She's been released along with 9 other wrestlers and wrestling personalities within AEW, which was a big shock. Not that people haven't been cut loose from AEW, they just never officially released anybody. They pretty much just sent them home and let their contract run out and then, just not talk to them anymore. They just ghost them. So it was a little bit of a shock to see that. But as it relates to AEW in the CM Punk kind of bridge there, one of the other big bits of information to note is that Punk says AJ Lee likely will not be returning to TV. AJ Mendez, for those of you that remember her on the Independence. She didn't go to the Independence. Wow. Let's just go and say, for those of you that remember her for her little blinky you'll miss it stint and wow. Oh, that's not fair. I shouldn't say that. They didn't really advertise all that much, but I'm not going to say blinking you miss her. Shame on me for that. Although they didn't do anything, and I shouldn't even say surprisingly, it is somewhat interesting to me that whenever I read an article, and I know I said this, I think last week, whenever I was reading an article that has anything to do with AJ Lee / AJ Mendez, WOW as a promotion and her time there is almost completely overlooked. They just go right into the last time we saw her was in WWE 9 years ago. They don't mention that she went to the WOW and did commentary and was an executive producer or whatever the case may be. Just nope. That never took place. It never happened. We don't know what you're talking about. She just vanished off the face of the earth. So yeah, it's not surprising to me. I don't think that she has any aspirations to be back in wrestling, which is, goes to what I was saying with the WOW thing, because I felt like that was a huge opportunity missed. I really felt like they should have done whatever they could do within a reasonable and financial budget to get her into the ring. And if that were not the case, because it's very likely that there was no amount of money that would make her want to get back into a ring. That's possible. But if that wasn't the case, at least get an interview. At least sit her down. Like, hey, we need to do a sit-down exclusive interview where they can only get your views and thoughts of your time in wrestling, WWE, why you left, et cetera, et cetera. And, we'll have this grand interview and we'll release it to the public. If they did not see the value in the interview, just look at what CM Punk has done. Look how him just talking to Ariel Helwani on the MMA Hour has driven views up for, not for Punk, mind you, but for Helwani. Having someone who is a good conversationalist or a cunning linguist in an interview / shoot interview environment works in wrestling. And AJ Mendez is that. She, in a lot of ways, is able to do her own versions of pipe bombs the way that Punk did. Not that they were copying one of another. I think that she had legitimate gripe. And when called for, she can deliver the goods on the microphone. I don't know why you wouldn't take advantage of that, but that's neither here nor there. In other wrestling news, Thunder Rosa secures a championship match at Destiny coming up. I still have not gotten into Ring of Honor because I refuse to get behind the paywall. I mean, I understand that there's a contract signing that's going on, but I will not be watching that unless they post that up on YouTube. I really do not know why they are going through all of this stuff for Ring of Honor. He should have put that on TV somewhere, but, what do I know? There are a number of people that will be attending WrestleCon this weekend. Because as you know, when WrestleMania is in town, everybody in all promotions somewhat flood in around it to try to get their products out towards the wrestling fan base. There are people that are going to come in town. Philly, for those who don't know. There are people that's going to come in town to the area that WrestleMania is in, regardless of where it's at, and just want to be part of the action. Now, I'm just talking about the fans right now. Forget the promotions. They just want to be in there because they know if they get to the town, even if they don't get to WrestleMania, there's probably like a dozen other wrestling shows that'll be taking place that weekend that they can go in and enjoy. It is, for those promotions that can afford to do it, it's a smart thing to do. Like I said, everybody can't go. It's the same principle as when the Super Bowl comes in town or the Final Four or any other major sporting event. Whenever they come to your town, there are people that's going to come regardless of whether they have a ticket or not. And if they can't secure a ticket, they'll just find other things that's around the town to do. And this is what happens with WrestleMania. The promotions, of course, have to take advantage of that. You can't fault them for attempting to do that. So, yeah, you got quite a bit of openings based on WWE and WrestleMania and it drawing the attention that it does. But getting back to WrestleCon, there will be a number of people there that if you are fortunate enough to go, then you can go and check out names such as, and I will just go ahead and say some of them I'm surprised that will be there, but names such as Trish Stratus, JoJo Offerman, the Tonga Twins, surprised about that. Some Stardom talent that didn't list by name, but some Stardom talent will be there. Mickie James, The Beautiful People, Harley Cameron, CJ Perry, Mandy Sachs, who you would probably remember as the former Mandy Rose. But where did I leave out? Ronda Rousey will be there. The Iconics will be there. Francine, Willow Nightingale, La Rosa Negra, Janai Kai, Allie, Summer Rae, Steph DeLander, Alicia Fox, I believe she goes by Vix Crow now, Queen Amanita, Jordan Grace, Kelly Kelly, Masha Slamovich, Killer Kelly, Terry Runnels, Lisa Marie Varon, or you might know her as Victoria or Tara, Candice Michelle, Tasha Steeles, ODB, Anna J, Mackenzie Mitchell, SoCal Val, Vert Vixen. For you WoW watchers, you might remember the 3 times that she was on TV as Glitch the Gamer. Viva Van, Thunder Rosa, Zaya Brookside, Maria Kanellis, Dawn Marie, Mariah May, Serena Deeb, Red Velvet, and there are more to be named. So that is quite the lineup of young ladies that will be attending WrestleCon. Of course, it's not just an all-women's thing. That is the list of women that I am aware of at this point that is due to show up. So if you had been on Mandy Sachs's, I forget what thing that she was using. It wasn't OnlyFans, but it was like an equivalent to OnlyFans. If you were on her site and you've been forking out money, then now's your chance to go and see her in person. Tell her, hey, that $50 I gave last week that was me. I'm sure that was, one of thousands that donated money to her. Made probably a good $1 million or so just based on being on that site. If only the rest of us had it that easy. Anyhow, moving on. I think that's going to be all the wrestling news that we can get into right now. And I believe we should just move ahead into the WoW review. So what do you say? Let's get this thing rolling and we'll talk about WoW. All right. So we open up. Well, I guess let me go back because I like giving the slate so you know what episode we're talking about, even if it's not really advertised. The air date is March 30th. The seasonal lineup or the seasonal number is 229. The chronological number is 81. The title of the show, Sky's the Limit. Now, before I get into that, let me just go ahead and say that I did not get the opportunity to watch this all in one setting like I would normally do. Generally speaking, for those that have listened to us for a while, you know that I watch this oftentimes while I'm at work because I'm monitoring those particular channels, and that happens to be one that I get a chance to see week in and week out. It comes on the local Philly stations and Pittsburgh stations, and of course across the room. But there was a lot that was going on this particular weekend on the job, and I didn't really get the chance to sit and watch in great detail and take notes like I would have. So I had to wait until they started uploading the matches. I just wrote down the lineup so I could keep it in order of how it aired on TV. I went into the database and I just wrote down this match, that match, segment, this segment, that, and then kind of got my order of operations as far as the show was concerned. So just a little behind the scenes there, just to let you know that it wasn't as quick or smooth a viewing this time for me. But I saw what I needed to see, and I wasn't necessarily happy with this because this, for me, most of this show defies logic or common sense, or both. It, particularly the team spirit angle, and I know we're going to get to it, but particularly the team spirit angle, it just bothered me. This bothered me. Because in my universe, it didn't make any sense. But like I said, we'll get to that. So why don't we start off? And I am going to potentially go back and forth here because one other thing that I feel like I wanted to include were these press conference bits that they seem to be wanting to do on their Instagram. They may be doing on other social media platforms. I don't know, but on their Instagram, they have been releasing these little video clips. Some of which are supposed to take place before the match. Some of which are supposed to take place after the match. It's fascinating to me how made up they still are, regardless to when the match took place. It's like they just went right into the makeup room. Is like, all right, do me up. I got to go and do this press conference. And I use air quotes for press conference. So I won't count that against the episode or the show. I just have to say it because it's ridiculous. So anyway, the show opens up with David McLane introducing the new team spirit. Immediately, I was like, what is he doing? Not that introducing the team is somehow bad, but to look at this, you would never think that anything went wrong. The tone that was presented in bringing them out was, I'll just say, in my opinion, it was all wrong. You have a team of people who the last time we saw them were pretty much beaten up. And here he is like, ladies and gentlemen, Ariel Sky, the new leader of Team Spirit, along with Sasha Sparks and Pep Riley. And just this big rah-rah speech. It didn't set the table of, here's a team who was betrayed. Here's three girls who were embarrassed on national television. It didn't set the tone for that at all. It was just like another day. And I tried to put this off like, okay, well, maybe that's just David McLane. Maybe he doesn't know how to turn it down. Maybe he doesn't know how to get another gear when he does these introductions. Because I've seen him for a lot of years and he's pretty much in the same phase, whether he's trying to be happy or sad, angry or mad. He's always kind of in that same bubble. So they get into the ring, and what I got from this is it felt like Ariel Sky was begging. Like, you're attacked. Why are you apologizing? Like, I didn't like the last promo. I gave it a pass, but I didn't care for the last promo. Like, why are you? And I just wanted to make you proud. And I did this, and I hung by your side. And I don't understand. You know, why are you doing this? I mean, that's like what a kid does. She's supposed to be grown. And then you have to go through this whole thing of her entire level of intelligence has skyrocketed. Because before she was just an absolute dimwit who could, and if you don't believe me, there's a promo back there where she's like, yeah, coach, I'm glad when you do that, what's that? Thinking. So now she couldn't remember what thinking was. When we saw her previously, now she's holding full-on conversations. Before it was like, you're too stupid to actually exist. There's no way that there's any human being that's walking around like this outside of a sitcom that's this dumb. But that has disappeared now. Her mind has, I guess, the concussion knocked something in gear, and she can think. And I would hate to think that would be the explanation on TV. God, I hate that I even said that now. That sounds like something. Yeah, when she bumped her head, she just got intelligent. That sounds like something they would do. Anyway, so they do this. Top Tier comes out within seconds to respond to whatever it is that you're doing, and they turn this angle into it being about the trophy. How did this happen? They turned this angle, the angle where Ariel Sky was benched, verbally dressed down, attacked with a trophy, and then attacked by all three members of Team Spirit, only to be told, that you're done and this is the B team. And now it's like, well, we want the trophy. I mean, that's not verbatim what they said, but they turned this into a match about the trophy rather than a match about, I got to get even with you. And they didn't even cut a promo to explain why she wants the trophy. Because it's not like he couldn't have explained it. It could have been something as simple as, I want to get even, but I know if I take that trophy off of you, that'll be even a beating will never last as long as the embarrassment of having your prized possession that you just got with Top Tier ripped out of your hands. That's not that difficult. And I'm not usually one to be like, oh, well, it's easy. You can just, I don't want to make it sound like that because doing television is hard. Producing stuff week to week is hard. And I don't want to try to pass it off like, oh, well, anybody could do this. This just do this and that, blah, blah, blah. No, but this just defies all kinds of logic. And what is she supposed to be here? Isn't she supposed to be angry about this? Isn't Ariel Sky, and for that matter, the rest of them? Why are they just standing there looking at this like, okay, well, it's just another day and it's another match? This is supposed to be something else. I've said it. There are times in wrestling where the circumstances have to be bigger than the match. They have to be bigger than the championship. They have to be bigger than what, just getting a 3 count. I'm not saying, of course, the win is where you pop and the fans get the payoff of seeing their heroes overcome. But the match is just there to facilitate the revenge. The whole thing being is, hey, we're in this wrestling business. I can't do this out in the street. I'll get arrested, but I'll take you in this ring. This is a rushed angle. And where are you going with this from this point? I mean, this version of Team Spirit just got formed. So they shouldn't really be losing necessarily. And then you got Top Tier that also just got formed. They shouldn't be losing. They should have met down in the middle somewhere after a couple of wins, but that's not happening. They're working in reverse. They'll probably do what they've done with Jesse Jones and the Americana thing. The babyface probably lose 3 or 4 times in a row before they finally get that one elusive win. Yay. No, I didn't like this. I did not like this. I didn't like how David McLane set it up. I didn't like their response. I didn't like Top Tier coming out there and like, yeah, fine, we'll put on the trophy. I didn't like any of that. Next segment, Abilene Maverick goes to the doctor's office, and this is beyond stupid. This segment here is beyond stupid. And before I even begin to review that, I'm just going to say this now because I really, truly want somebody out of that place, anybody, to explain this to me. And I defy any person that works at WoW, owns it, produces it, wrestles for it, top to bottom, management down to cameraman. Jeannie Buss, David McLane, Nigel Zane, Selena Majors, Abilene Maverick, the fake doctor, the cameraman, whoever. I defy any one of them to explain to me how this makes sense. Either in a real world setting or in a wrestling world kayfabe universe. How does this make sense? So we get Abilene Maverick in a doctor's office, and we know we air quote doctor's office too. And the doctor comes in, and the first I'm skipping over something. She says that I brought the WoW cameras here basically to prove to you that I'm actually hurt and I can't wrestle. Then the doctor speaks like, oh yeah, you're cleared to wrestle. Then she gives him a kick in the shins on camera, and he flips a couple of pages and then immediately changes his mind. Oh yeah, no, you're not okay to wrestle. She gets up, yeah, see, I told you. And then she walks past, and then we see a pet poster on the wall. Now, of course, this is all play for comedy. But here's my issue with this. First, let's start off with real world rules. If this was taking place in the real world, one, she probably would not be going to the doctor's office in full wrestling attire, but that's beside the point. So, if this were the real world and they brought the WoW cameras in there, Abilene Maverick asked the WoW camera crew to follow her to a doctor's office to show them that she's actually hurt. So I can only assume that they either had to be blindfolded when they walked into the building and didn't see that it was that is a vet. There weren't no animals around. No one else is in there. No one's waiting in the waiting room. There's no signs on the wall that's in the lobby, much less in the office itself. And even if you went through all of that and said that, well, none of those things existed, the camera people who she said, I got WoW cameramen. Not my own personal cameraman who I can manipulate and make lie. I got the WoW cameraman to come in here and do this. None of them said, hey, look, this is crap. No, I'm not going to back this up. David McLane, yeah, she's at a vet. She ain't hurt. Seriously? Now, that's just the real world version of this. The kayfabe version isn't much different. So now let's look at the kayfabe side of it and imagine, because, in wrestling logic, the camera should just appear there. So let's just assume that the camera just magically appears in this doctor's office. So while we're recording this, again, remember, this is people that work for WoW. By proxy, they get a check from David McLane and or Jeannie Buss. They're sitting there watching this nonsense go on. Abilene Maverick apparently is not a good planner or a good schemer because she didn't tell the person to say this stuff off camera. So when you come into the room, say, I am hurt. See, he just walks in like, oh, okay, well, yeah, you're okay to wrestle. Now, let's pause right there. How would he know if she's okay to wrestle? If this is legitimately supposed to be a veterinarian's office, why would he even bother having her there? And if that was the case, it was his friend, why wouldn't he lie? Neither one of those things makes sense. Either you checked her out and she was fine, and then you tried to convince her, she tried to convince you otherwise, or you're somebody that she hooked up, and why did you not lie to begin with? But we'll move on. She kicks him in the shin, like I said, in front of the camera crew. Clearly showing you that this is all just bogus and made up. And then he changes his mind. Oh yeah, you're not okay to wrestle. So we'll ignore the fact that she kicked him in the shins, and then she's like, all right, yeah, so I'm good. Bye. The camera then follows her just a moment, enough to see the dog poster on the wall. So this poor schemer, Abilene Maverick, didn't even clip the video. Why would she ask the wild guys to come in there and do that in the first place? She should just say, oh, yeah, I got my friend here to bring in or whatever. This is just absurd. It is silly. It's beyond stupid. None of this made any sort of sense. None of it. I'm sorry. It don't. I know some people out there got a kick out of it, like, ha, ha, ha. Look at Abilene Maverick. She's being funny. But no, this does not make any sense. It's ridiculous. Every way you look at this is ridiculous. Like I said, the only way that this could make any sort of sense is if that camera magically appeared within the building, or they were blindfolded when she took them to it. Like, don't look. And I guess don't smell, because, veterinary, if you ever been to one, you can smell the animals. And it didn't look like a vet's office. It didn't look like one that I've been to. Maybe they do use the beds that people lay on in L.A. for a vet's office. Anytime I've ever gone, it's a metal platform because they don't want the dogs and the cats getting fleas in fabric. So, yeah. That is a big, big, big fail for this segment. Segment 3, we go into a match. Ice Cold and Exodus is representing Exile along with Genesis on the outside against the All-American Girls. All-American Girls have new outfits. Genesis is doing her, I guess, the de facto manager. And just as a side note, the WoW hype guy is clearly seen over there trying to get people to cheer and whatnot. If you get a chance, you should go back and look at it, and you can see what I'm talking about. So anyway, there's not really a lot that I can put into this match. I mean, to me, this match moved very slowly. It's not necessarily bad, but it felt like it was just in quicksand. Didn't move well for me. I know that you got a lot of people in that ring that are still learning. Americana specifically. Ice Cold. Exodus probably outside of Santana Garrett probably had the most experience in the ring, and I'm not saying that she's close to the experience that Santana Garrett has, but outside of them, she's the only one that I know of that wrestles elsewhere beyond WoW. There's a point in the match where it looks like another bad spot got kind of covered up by the editing. Let's flip to the crowd so they can make sure that no one sees this type deal. But I don't know. I mean, I'm not opposed to the All-American girls, even though I still do not understand why the All-American girls are running around in neon colors of lime green and purple and pink and, stuff like that. Because the first thing that I say, or when I hear the whispers of the response of the All-American girls, that's usually what they ask. Like, the All-American girls? Why are they wearing these outfits? That's almost some version of that question, regardless of, who and how, is always that. So anyway, like I said, the match is kind of, it is all right. Not great. I don't even know if I would call it really good. It's serviceable. So I guess let's just get to the end of that, because there is a little bit of clunkiness that takes place in this match. Santana Garrett easily has to be the captain here. I have very little doubt about that. She's the most experienced person between the four. At the end of the match, she looks like she's clearly and audibly saying, go do this and go do that. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, at the end of the match, after the pinfall and Ice Cold and Exodus are having words with each other, it's like Santana Garrett, for some unknown reason, just walks over to Exodus and grabs her hair and leans down and says something. Then she pushes her towards Ice Cold and talks to the ref, and then he goes and does some stuff. So, yeah, she clearly was captaining something here. But in any case, the match comes to its conclusion after a miscommunication, which I guess is no big surprise here, considering the story that they're still trying to tell with Exile, even though I'm somewhat bored of this story now. I mean, I thought they might have addressed some of that while they was in the trios tournament, and been done with it. But it seems like they're still hanging on to it. So Ice Cold at the end gets, which one's that? Santana Garrett in a full Nelson. Exodus comes in, tries to deliver a super kick. Super kick connects with Ice Cold instead, and now she goes on like, oh, wow, I'm sorry I hit you. And then she takes the super kick, she being Exodus. She lays down and then takes the moonsault press, or a somersault press. I forget what she calls it. But the handstand into the moonsault, the standing moonsault by Santana Garrett. And 1, 2, 3, that's it. And like I said, after that, it's like Garrett just went over there like, hey, go do this. And then she talks to the referee, go do that. They get out of the ring, and then you got Genesis just hollering and screaming out like, all right, get on and move. Y'all let me down, or whatever she's talking about. So there is a clip on Instagram that allegedly followed this match in their press conference. Pointless stuff, really. Just I really don't understand why they don't get a mic stand for this, or somebody to be there rather than them just talking off camera to nobody. This is one of them times where I was like, having somebody who does interviews would be a good thing for a while, so they did not have to do this. So if you ever see it, they're just talking about the win for like 30 or 40 seconds or whatever, how long it is. And then we move on. Nothing really pertinent there. It's just, it's interesting to see them after the match because they look like they weren't in the match at all. They were like perfectly made up. Their hair's great. Almost no sweat. Nothing. Just, we just show back up. Hey guys, we had the match. We're glad we won. And all American girls are doing this and that. It was a cold match. Okay, it was a cold match. There was really nothing to this. Exile doesn't really have anything going on. All American girls, they haven't got anything new going on either. So it was just there to be there. And like I said, Exodus and Ice Cold argue afterwards. Where's that going? Who knows? Next segment, BK Rhythm with the Brat Pack facing off against Holidead. This, in my view, is probably the match of the show. It felt more competitive. Yes, it had its spots in there where, you do the silly things like just take off running or whatever the case may be. But outside of that, I thought the match was pretty solid. Why has J Boogie joining the Brat Pack never been explained? They reference it every once in a while, like I'm surprised that she would associate with them, but they never explain why she's there. Other than she has a boom box, and I'm sure somebody felt like, well, that'd be a great idea. She likes music, that she raps, that'll all fit. So, yeah, I don't understand J Boogie's place here beyond that. And I'm not really sold on her right now either. I don't have it for her. J Boogie she don't belong there. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. She does not need to be on national TV wrestling. She might need to be in somebody's music video. I've seen her YouTube channel and her dancing. She looks better dancing in that environment than trying to dance as J Boogie. Because I don't like saying Lil J Boogie. It's a dumb name. But in the WoW environment, it doesn't translate well. She hasn't had really much opportunity outside of her first match to show that she can do this beyond, a move here and there. She almost does not seem to relate the emotion of the moment. It's a lot of ha-ha, and it feels like this is her just jacking around at times. So, no, I just haven't gotten it for her at this moment. Maybe that'll change, but I don't see it. Side note, some WoW fans, if they are indeed making these signs, they make some cheap ass signs. I cannot prove this, okay? The old Patrice O'Neal line, this I cannot prove. But I am absolutely convinced that people in WoW just sit back there with these little cardboard things and some crayons, and they come up with the signs and they just give it to somebody to hold this and be a fan. Because I can't imagine anybody went home like, I am going to make a sign for Holly Swag today. Because she is my favorite wrestler. Not the Mother Truckers. I'm going to make one for Holly Swag. I'm going to make this sign for Holidead. And I'll use the cheapest marker that I can possibly find to do it. With no kind of artistic license or anything. Just scribble something on a piece of cardboard paper and off we go. Anyhow, all of that aside, like I said, this is probably, in my opinion, the match of the show. Why? Because it just came off a little bit more competitive than most of the other things that took place here. A lot of these fans look like they didn't give a crap what was going on. They were just looking at a stunt show in front of them in the middle of the ring, which is largely what this is, like, a stage stunt show. Coming in to watch this thing take place. That's about it. But BK Rhythm, Holidead, they both did a good job here. Not surprising. Killer Kate on the independents does well. Holidead does well. I was not surprised about who won. Holidead won. Because BK Rhythm never wins. The Brat Pack almost never wins. So there was no real shock there. The shock is that Rhythm had a match that, even in a cold match environment, was relatively entertaining. And I think she deserves that. It was relatively entertaining that these two got together and somehow managed to eke out a match that looked good. But I think that match is wasted on this crowd. I really do. They all seem like they're watching intently, but I don't know if they know what's going on. Some of them look like they're just sitting on their hands. Some of them look like they're just patiently waiting. Some of them do a polite applause. Some people are looking at their phones and, just talking to other people out in the crowd, staring up at the ceiling and just what have you. And it just felt like a match that was too good for the people that was actually sitting there trying to watch it. It wasn't a spectacular thing. It just seemed out of place. In any case, Holidead wins this match by pinning BK Rhythm with Darkness Falls. That is her double arm facebuster. After the match, Holidead is attacked by the Brat Pack members, and then they are run off when Chantilla Cella and the returning Foxy Fierce show up to run them away. And once they're done, they raise Holidead's arm in victory. And then they start dancing as if to say, come on and dance with us. And Holidead kind of backs off like, no. So I don't know where that's going to go to. I guess time will tell. Holidead is on her Violence is for Everyone tour, I guess. Although I'm not really sure how she's more violent than the next person, quite honestly. I mean, it's not like she does brutal things on WoW. It's not like WoW would allow her to do brutal things on WoW. So I don't know what the gimmick of Violence is for Everyone is supposed to be about. It's kind of like what I say with some of these other people. It's like there's really no point in you doing this when you can't use it or back it up. What I said about Dave McLane. Why are you talking to Dave McLane? You can't do anything with that. I said that when they had Dagger out there. Why is she coming out with long knives and swords to the ring? She cannot use these gimmicks. She can't. And this is another one of those things. Like, why go advertising Violence is for Everyone? She's never going to be violent. She's not going to be any more violent than anybody else in that show. Next segment, the Mother Truckers do a backstage promo on their opponents, which is going to be Goldie Collins and Katarina Jinx. I almost immediately tuned out when I saw them two paired up. I knew, and I'm sure you knew as well. The second you saw this dog trainer on the show, speaking in dog puns and all that good stuff, and you saw Katarina Jinx, this woman who apparently thinks that she's a cat, also speaking in cat puns and etc., you knew one of two things was going to happen eventually. Either they were going to be faced off against each other because of the dog and cat scenario, or they were going to tag up. And in this case, we got the latter. The two of them teamed up to go after the Wild Tag Team Championships because, this team of Katarina Jinx and Goldie Collins, despite the fact that they haven't won a single match between the two of them, deserve to have a title shot. Go figure. I don't know whether WoW announcers, Lauren and Nigel and Dave McLane, exist in the same production meeting. As Lauren is announcing them coming out the ringside, Nigel and David settled on, oh, that's a great Animal Instinct. That's a great name. You were smart, Nigel. Ha, ha, ha. Meanwhile, Lauren's in the ring calling them Animal Control. Like, are we not part of the same company here? Are the lines of communication somehow broken? I'm sure someone there can explain that. Maybe not well, but somebody there can explain it. But how are these two getting the title shot to begin with? How on earth are these two getting a title shot? What have they done to get a title shot? And more importantly, why would anybody watching this believe that they actually were going to win? I could not even get a suspension of disbelief between these two. I mean, it's enough that I want to be nice here. It's enough that I don't view them as pro wrestlers rather than just the wild superheroes. Katarina Jenks and Goldie Collins are wild superheroes. Yes, that is true. They are not pro wrestlers. But that aside, how? Why? Why are they in this position? So, anyway, they get in there. They are ready. Animal control, as they were announced. Animal instinct, as the commentary team calls them. I'm sure one of those will be settled on, probably Animal Instinct, because it sounds like Dave McLane likes that one better. This team was destined to happen, but it was also destined to lose, and that's exactly what happened. There's no point really going into it. I mean, Big Rig Betty and Holly Swag I've read their record. I've produced it and read it off here. And even now, after what are they on, like 18 matches in WoW, they've only lost 3, 2 of which are the same team. But there's no reason to believe that the Mother Truckers weren't going to win here. They almost always win. And the other side of the coin has never won. So why would I be excited for this at all? Whatsoever. David McLane, during the course of the match, starts talking about the Mother Truckers and how fans are calling swag towing so they could just get a chance to meet the Mother Truckers. So now Dave McLane is advertising their real job on Wild Television. Because apparently everybody there has some sort of side hustle. And WoW was just a weekend warrior thing. Even within the universe of WoW, they're just weekend warriors. You show up, you do that, then you go back to your real life and your real job later on. They are also determined to get this honk over. I can't stand it. It drives me up the wall. I can't. It's just so ridiculous. And I know outside of that environment probably would not fly anywhere unless they just happen to have an arena full of like 10-year-olds. Also, the Mother Truckers seem to put a little bit of extra Southern sauce on their dialect whenever they're on Wild Television. They have to just crank it up to 1,000,000 so that Dave McLane gets his money's worth out of his Southern girls. So a miscommunication happens somewhere in the course of the match where Swag is tossed into the ropes by both Katrina Jinx and Goldie Collins. She catches both of their feet. But as Jinx is there hopping up and down, she decides that she's going to hit an enziguri. She tries, Swag ducks. The enziguri pops Goldie Collins in the head. The tag is made. Big Rig Betty does her thing, sends Goldie Collins out on the outside, catches Jinx with a stunner. And at least Swag ran over there to prevent Collins from getting into the ring. But that was it. 1, 2, 3, they were done. And then they cut a promo after the match about nothing. It's just, that was some more roadkill. And if you want us to take on some other people, you just line them up, we'll knock them down, that type of thing. Honk, honk. It's just dumb. Just like the locker room. Who is designing these sets? What is that supposed? If you looked at the locker room, have you seen the locker room with the Mother Truckers? I mean, before they was just doing their laundry every week. Like every time they went in there, they had clothes. Here's the clothespin, so we got to have our clothes hanging up here so it can dry because we don't know how to go to a laundromat. We're just two dumb Southern girls. Yuck. So that was what they was doing before, but now I guess they've learned how to use a laundromat, and so we just got the stop signs and the honk honk signs that's hanging out here, and the little bungee cords that people use in their trucks, because I have some of those, but they're just stretched out inexplicably across the lockers for some reason. I know he enjoys this type of humor and what have you, but this, I'll be honest, outside of the Holidead BK Rhythm match, this is a hard episode to get through. I don't know why it was just this tough for me this week, but it was tough. It did not register with me at all. And for every segment, it's like they had these little things in there. And because I know there's going to be people that look at WoW and be like, well, it was good. They had a good match. And I'm not talking about the matches. I'm talking about the gaps in logic that they have in between that. And this is another one of those things they had just some gaps in the logic. So the next segment, following them other truckers and their victory over whatever team you want to call them. They set up a promo for the Beast for her interview. Then followed by the next segment, the Beast actually having the interview. So now we have David McLane in the ring apologizing to the Beast. Now, here's another one of those things. Like, are you kidding me? What's going on here? He is there to issue his apology for, I guess, for not believing her before. And we scanned through all the footage to find that you did not cheat. And apparently it only took them like 3 weeks to figure this out. So what we have here is Dave McLane has the Beast come into the ring, and then he issues the apology, and he's talking about, well, let's take a look at the screen and we can show everybody what we're talking about. So they go to the screen, and they show Abilene Maverick in full view of the camera, like directly in front of, not just in full view of the camera, like I'm going to look right into it, smile, and hold these brass knuckles up. This goes back to what I said at the beginning. She's a poor schemer. Why? Like, oh, we found this camera. I was like, seriously, you found it? You had to scan through all your cameras to find that. So when you were sitting there at ringside, you can see it. And the camera is right in her face. You go back and look at the match, the cameraman is right in her face. Why would you have to scan through all the footage? Like, this is so difficult to pick up. And, and not for nothing, if I wanted to play devil's advocate here, the issue was not whether she brought the brass knuckles into the ring. The issue was whether she used the brass knuckles. So I'm not even sure how this just alleviates the problem. Like, well, you see right there, she put the brass knuckles out of her boots, so now we know you didn't cheat. I guess that just solves the crime. So I'm not saying that the idea of trying to set the Beast up as Abilene Maverick tried to set up to fail, like, hey, she cheated and so she can hold on to the title. But, I mean, this is as basic explanation as they could get. This is as little work as you could possibly do. Especially when I had a cameraman right there. I mean, this is the second time in the same show where she's shown just to be a dimwit as far as it relates to cameras. Like, I guess the camera won't see this poster of the dog on the wall when I walk out. I guess the cameraman won't see me pull these brass knuckles out while I'm looking in the lens. And in fairness to them, when the match took place, they just cut to the other angle, so you didn't see any of that because, of course, that was the perfect time to cut away because we don't want to show you that she's getting stuff out of her boots. But, yeah, Abilene Maverick is within the WoW universe. We're not talking about the actual person here. So let's to make sure that I get this clear because I don't want anybody taking the feelings hurt. But no, she is a very, very poor schemer. If this is her plan, I'll use this and then I'll just plant it into her tights. But again, like I said, playing devil's advocate, the issue wasn't whether she brought him to the ring or not. The issue was whether she used him. Where's the footage of that? Where's the footage? I mean, isn't that the whole crux of the issue? I'm hurt, David. I can't wrestle. She hit me in the head with these brass knuckles. I got a head injury. Where in this footage does it show that was not the case? It was just, oh, yeah, we see that she has it, so you couldn't have done it. So he decides that, all right, well, now that we've shown that we're going to give you a title match, another title match. I don't know if this match is so pertinent or such a money draw or such a ratings boost that they should be having another one. But then again, I have also told you all that WrestleNomics has pretty much stopped giving WoW ratings. I was looking forward to seeing what the ratings were. I liked reporting it to you. But it seems as if it's come across like it is too much of a hassle to be bothered with that now because there's not enough people that are interested in it. Not enough people watch it for them to look. Now I'm trying to see if there's another outlet that I can use to produce those numbers. Because I honestly would be very surprised if they have done anything over the 200,000 mark that they basically hovered around. Between 200,000, 250,000. Sometimes they creeped up to 300, but generally speaking, on the average, they're about 200,000 people that watch WoW coast to coast in this country, according to the ratings. It ain't a lot. But they may not care. I keep giving the caveat, they may not care. We don't know what internally they view as a success. It could just be that, well, we're making content and the ad dollars are coming in, so, what do we care? But WoW is an interesting thing. That's pretty much all I can say for them, especially when it comes to mysteries and solving crimes. They're very good at it. As you can tell, if you didn't guess, I did not like this segment either. We go to the next segment, and this segment was worse. For the 30 seconds or so that it took place, this segment was worse. Top Tier comes out, assumably out of a dressing room. Somehow they are incapable of seeing Team Spirit collected at the bottom of the steps, going over like, hey, guys, we're going to win tonight. And they're like, hey, all of a sudden it's like shocked that they're there. And then they had this confrontation, and within a matter of seconds, one guy, security, comes in and breaks up this minor skirmish. And that's pretty much all it was, a minor skirmish. It was just words with each other. This is exactly what I was talking about at the beginning. They took something that would have or could have been theoretically a hot angle and had some heat on it with this girl that's trying to get revenge for you betraying me and dropping me and beat me up. And they turned it into a rival basketball game. That's all this was. It was just two teams who just happen to be going against each other, so we're just talking trash. If you did not see any of that stuff, you wouldn't know what the big deal was. You would just think this is a regular match. Why would they be mad at each other? They seem to be fine. And it was such a heated thing that this one dude was able to break all 6 of them up. Like, hey, God, top tier, you go upstairs, go to the ring. And then those ones just waited. Didn't disobey, didn't try to grab at him, didn't try to take a swing, nothing, just like, all right, we'll wait our turn. This was highly disappointing. Highly disappointing. I was hoping that they would at least get to the point where they would have some kind of anxiety, anger, tension, something that would make me want to see that. Nope. It's just, like I said, minor skirmish. Pretty much it. So, the next segment is a promo for next week's Princess Aussie versus Reina Del Rey match. Got the previews for that. I'll go into it as soon as I can. I'm already not looking forward to it. I hope that I'm proven wrong. But I'm not looking forward to this because they've already rushed it. But they could prove me wrong. They could do something else. They could have some other twist or turn that takes place in the match. So I'm not ready to just brush off Aussie versus Del Rey yet. In terms of work, I trust them both. In terms of creative, I am worried. The next segment following that is a promo for the Dojo Defenders, Karakai and Tara Strike. And that sounds like some wild names. For those who don't know, that's Aurora God damn, can I say it in Taviz? And Tootie Lynn Ramsey. Those are the Dojo Defenders. And the first thing I thought when I saw them was like, what dojo are they defending? Doesn't really roll off the tongue. I mean, it sounds like a cartoon name, which fits there, but like doesn't really do anything for me. It's that like Top Tier sounds like a good name. Sounds like a name of competitors and athletes. I'll even give Team Spirit because of the gimmick. And yes, I know that they're supposed to be karate gimmicks, and I'm already concerned about that because I feel like they're going to do exactly what happened in this main event match. Like you do karate, so therefore you must make sure that you do karate to let people know. You got to just overdo it. But anyway, no, I Dojo Defenders. Ugh. So it is main event time, and we got Coach Campanelli and her crew coming out to ringside with her brand new silver trophy, which we still are not entirely sure. Was this a trophy that was replaced by WOW after she broke the first one across Ariel Sky's back? Or did she go out and get her own trophy and just stick the WOW logo on it? Like, yeah, this is ours. And, of course, she's walking around with the trophy in hand. She's very proud of it. Nigel tries to sell that these two teams had a confrontation and had to be broken up by security. Like, now, this is one of them points that I know you got to toe the company line. And I know you got to say the things that need to be said to try to get across the story. But, no, come on. Security had to break them up. This war of words that they had, and I can't even say that there was like a heated argument back there. It was like the call of the mile. No, that was just a guy waiting off just behind camera for our previously planned thing. It's just off screen enough. Like as soon as they get in there, all right, guys, break it up. And then they just did. Ain't no confrontation there. This was more about winning and retaining a trophy than revenge, which is also the big letdown in this match. More importantly than that, when this is presented, and I'm really, really curious to know, when this is presented, I can't imagine not one person did not see anything wrong with that. Not one of them. Not one person's like, why are we going after the trophy? She did this and this. Why are we making this about the trophy? Shouldn't we want to get even with Coach? I really have a hard time believing. I mean, okay, maybe Candy Crush would buy that. Maybe Coach Campanelli would buy that because they're not in wrestling beyond being in WoW. But Glitter comes from the Indies. Sky does wrestle elsewhere. She probably doesn't have a lot of experience outside of that. Sparks does wrestle elsewhere. She didn't have a lot of experience outside of that. But just out of just common sense, no one in the room was like, I question this. Or maybe it's just a case of I don't want to question anything because they just cut me loose because I have heard that story before. I'm sure the WoW will never acknowledge that now, and if somebody from WoW was hearing it, you have to go back and listen to the interview with the Phantom. That's from WoW 2000. Also, there are other people who have come and made some statements about their experience in WoW, but because of things, papers, we can't get that publicly, at least not yet. So, I back to the point. I cannot imagine that anybody would look at that and be like, yeah, this makes perfect sense to me, that we should just have a wrestling match. And that's exactly what it was. It was just a wrestling match. The first two people in there are the ones who had beef, Campanelli and Sky. And the first thing that they do is they just start off doing a technical wrestling match. Why was this happening? I mean, was it good in terms of technique with some of that stuff? Yes. But why was it happening? Just because you could do it does not mean that it was appropriate for the situation that you were in. It was not appropriate for the storyline that you're part of, if you want to just go into that. It would be like having the Punisher in a movie finally track down the guy that killed his family and then say, you know what? Death is too good for you. I'm going to arrest you and let the cops deal with you because justice is served. No. The Punisher's whole MO is I go for revenge. And if I catch you, that's it. There's no jail time for you. It fits the narrative of the person. To do anything less betrays his character. Now, granted, Ariel Sky has not established a character for those things to happen. But I still stand by this. I cannot believe that any person that sat in that room or heard this pitch to them as far as the match was concerned said that, yeah, this makes perfect sense. She doesn't need revenge. This is just as dumb as when Americana was going for revenge for them breaking her tablet. This is just as stupid as that. So they start off, and then they had their little exchange, and then they go and tag their partners out. Team Spirit is going to go out of their way to do head scissors and flips and drop kicks and just whatever they can to do anything cheerleader-esque, which already bothers me. Pep Raleigh gets in the ring after Sasha Sparks gets her little way with Gloria Glitter. And I have already told you what Pep Riley's job is there to do. Her job is to get bounced around and beaten up. That's pretty much it. Yes, will she get a move in here and there? Sure. But her overall job in this grand scheme of things is just to be the crash test dummy or the beat up doll or however you want to call it. So it is Riley. She gets in there with Crush, and as stated, She gets a couple of things in before they take control, and then she becomes the nomination for the one that has to get beat up in the corner. And they do, their little number. They start tagging in and out, rotating between the three of them. Crush then get back in after they do that a little bit and charges across the ring. And the other two people didn't see her coming, I guess, even though it was in plain view. And they get knocked off the apron. To move this along, the thing that's important to note here is that they did the same stuff that a lot of wrestling companies do. We have to make sure we get the spot where everybody gets to come in and do a move. And that's exactly what they did. Is everybody had to come in and do some move just to try and, I guess make this look exciting, I suppose. Ariel Sky gets into the ring when she gets the tag from Sasha Sparks. And it's cartwheel, it's barrel roll, it's shoulder block, it's another cartwheel, it's another barrel roll. It's rolling through. I mean, it was just ridiculous, the amount of this stuff that she was doing. And again, did it look fine? Yeah, but why are you doing this? There's no reason for you to be doing it, and it looked like it hurt her. All of this looked like it's like either she took a move badly or got kicked hard by Crush when she came to break up a fall, or she was out of breath, all of the above. One or the other. And I'm going to go with she probably got legitimately kicked in the guts when Crush came in there to break up the fall, which would have been the second injury that she had because somebody out there doesn't have the chemistry or the timing or whatever. I mean, things happen. But yeah, if you go back into it, it looks like she took a little bit of a bad kick there. But then that cues off because Sparks is in the ring. And for some reason, God, this looks bad. This looks so bad. Sparks is down, Coach is down, and for some reason or another, Ariel Sky comes into the ring. And immediately turns around and walks backwards so that Gloria Glitter can come and give her a German suplex. I mean, it's the most unnatural entrance of the ring that I can possibly see. Like, who does that? Who comes in and out immediately turn my back? And there was no reason for them to be in the ring in the first place. But this just reeks of telegraphing the move. And that's what it was. She completely telegraphed it. But like I said, this was just there so everybody can go and do their stuff. So she gets the German suplex. Everybody comes off with a high cross body. Candy Crush comes in and does like a DVD, Death Valley Driver. Sparks comes in and does a bulldog. And then Sparks calls with a buzzer beater. That was the match. And not only did you have a nonsensical portion of the match like Ariel Sky flipping and barrel rolling and cartwheeling and everything, then you had the heels who win clean. Where else is this supposed to go? Where else should this go? They just won. First of all, they made this about the trophy and pretty much turned this into the second finals of the tournament, which is just absurd. But then we have this. They beat them clean as a whistle, flat, middle of the ring. Why would I care for a rematch? They didn't handle this one well. Why would I care for a rematch? She didn't get her revenge. She didn't even attempt a revenge. I would have preferred it if she went in there and she was trying to fight and just beat her up and got disqualified. Top tier still wins. They retain the trophy. And Ariel Sky can come back and fight another day. You know, she can get what she says. Like, no, I said I wanted revenge. I didn't say anything about winning. again, I'm not going to say that is incredibly easy just across the board to have these things. But I honestly cannot, in my wildest thoughts, imagine why no one felt like this needed to be a little bit more heated than what it was. Especially when the angle is built on revenge. Getting even. The babyface getting the receipt from the heels. None of that happened. The crowd didn't seem to care. It seemed like this was a rushed angle. They probably didn't know what was happening to begin with. According to Lord Jack Long, yes, I've elevated him to the status of Lord. According to Lord Jack Long, when he sent the email before, that there's extras out there in the crowd. And I fully believe that. I absolutely believe it. Because they don't look like they're interested. They're there, and they applaud, and they do what they're told. That guy in the corner's like, hey, clap, cheer, say this and that. They do it. But aside from that, it's like, where was the desire to see the baby faces overcome? This was just a stunt show, a live stage stunt show in front of a crowd. Let us show you the things that we can do. Let's roll around, let's flip, let's do cartwheels, let's do this and that and da 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 da. That's all this was. And there are talented people in this match. I don't want to discount anybody being talented. But it's wasted here. It's wasted just on the premise of not delivering what they should have delivered. And I will say they should have. They should have delivered a match that got some level of revenge or something for the baby faces to strive for. That end sequence there just bothered me. Yeah, I know everybody's got to get their stuff in, but the end sequence just bothered me. Everybody's got to get in the place for it. And then the referee I gave him credit when he stopped the match for Ariel Sky when she hurt herself. But here he just looks like a Nimrod standing there waving his arms around like he didn't know what's going on. Hey, guys, stop it. So what happened to the days when a referee could be somewhat authoritative? And all he does is just stand in the corner just waving his arms. Hey, stop, please, no. I was like, come on, man. Get in there and do something. And it's hard to get that kind of heat from the heels when there's no rules there. There was no rule to this. There was nothing for them to cheat. If you're just looking at it for the surface of the match, the match in itself is okay. If you're looking at this as a connective tissue to what has taken place in front of it, then this match is no good. Take your pick. That's largely why I didn't, have a lot of stuff that I could really say or, comment about in a while, because it's like this episode just bothered me. It was very difficult to watch this and not say, come on, really? So we're going to give you a preview of the next episode, and then we'll wrap it up. This, if you do not want to hear it, this is the point where you get to skip ahead to the next chapter and, before I give my opinions about anything. All right, you're still here, so here we go. The next episode is going to be episode 230. For me, that's going to be episode 82, chronologically. The name of it is Injured or Insidious. And it reads as follows. After the truth about Abilene Maverick's injury is revealed, David McLane reminds her of her obligation to defend the WoW World Championship title. Following all the drama between Reina Del Rey and Princess Aussie, the two finally face off in the ring to show who's really the toughest at WoW. The Brat Pack takes on WoW's darlings, the Mighty Mites, and Lana Starr leads Miami's Sweet Heat, Lovely Laurie, and Luscious Lindsay into battle against the Dojo Defenders, making their debut as the newest WoW superheroes. The world's greatest attorney, Sophia Lopez, has to negotiate the tension between her clients, the Las Banditas, as they prepare to fight with the seasoned WoW superheroes, the Tonga Twins, in the main event. And that is what the episode is slated to be. And I can already tell you that some of that I'm not looking forward to. The truth about Abilene Maverick's injury is revealed. Yeah, I wonder what it is. Could it be fake? I mean, he could have reminded her obligation to defend the title, whether she was injured or not. Got 30 days. That's the contract that you signed. You either find somebody to stand in for you or you do it yourself. The drama, I don't know what drama they're talking about other than the chair shot that Reina Del Rey gave her. And like I said, if it's just that, they rushed it. But I hope that there's something else to this between Ozzy and Del Rey. The Brat Pack, who we just heard in review lose, or at least a member of lose to Holidead. Now they're taking on the Mighty Mites, and I'm assuming that they should win that. They should win that, but, you know, because the Mighty Mites haven't won anything. But then again, how often do the Brat Pack win? They do have a victory or two in their resume. So I'm going to go with the Brat Pack on that one. And I have less issue with that than anything else other than the Mighty Mites are destined for failure. Lana Starr with Miami Sweet Heat against the Dojo Defenders. I fully expect the Dojo Defenders to lose because, hey, it's their debut. What else would they do? Anybody that debuts on WoW, they have to go down in flames. So there you go. And then, assumably, the main event, Las Banditas taking on the Tonga Twins, and I guess there's some issues that's taking place between Las Banditas. Now, that's 5 different matches. The last time I read 5 matches on here, one of those matches got dropped. I would assume, was that 5? Let me see. Reina Del Rey and Princess Aussie. Brat Pack and the Mighty Mites. Miami Sweet Heat against, who did I just? Dojo Defenders. And Las Banditas and the Tonga. Okay, no, I stand corrected. I mean, I was including the deal with Abilene Maverick. So, though you've got my predictions. Abilene Maverick, let's just wrap that whole thing up. Let's get her to the point where we just drop the title and move on. Because it's just silly now, and it's like it's being played too much for comedy. The Beast doesn't belong in anything comedic, even though she has not participated with it directly. It becomes hard to look at this matchup and take it seriously when Abilene is, basically being a clown between the two of them. Mighty Mites have to lose. Ozzy, I'm gonna go with Ozzy over Del Rey. Even though, again, I don't know if they're going to do something following that would keep this going. For Reina Del Rey's sake, I hope that they have something reasonable going. And the Tonga Twins should probably beat Las Banditas again. I mean, how many times did the Banditas have to lose to the Tonga Twins? 4, 5, 6, 7 times. They never win. They didn't win in their previous incarnation. I doubt they're going to win now. And all of a sudden now, we got issues between the members that the new one that just showed up is already creating problems. And that seems like what WoW is mostly about, is just arguments and issues. Maybe that's what they should change the name to. Just arguments and issues wrestling. Because that's what it is. Anything that's supposed to be remotely serious in there is never going anywhere, and it just reverts back to the same thing, arguments and issues. So that's it. That is the preview. I know, certainly, there are people out there who love WoW. And I know there are people out there who look at that and say, man, I don't see anything wrong with the show. And if you're one of those people, good for you. I'm not trying to say that WoW does not have its base. What I am saying is that WoW does not make any effort to try to extend it. WoW does not make a lot of effort to try to get more people to watch. WoW does not make a lot of effort to try to keep continuity and logic applied to certain situations, such as what I just went through this entire show. They just don't. Probably and largely because they don't have to. They're not in the same position as even high-end indie promotions, even the high-end ones that have sponsors and local TV and stuff like that. They don't have the luxury of not trying to get people to watch. Or they don't have the luxury of not trying to get people to buy the ticket to come in, or buy the ticket to their big event, or buy their merchandise, or whatever. They do not have the luxury to not push it and not make sense. They have to try to get people to care about the personalities. They have to try to get people to care about the wrestlers there so that they want to see them either succeed or fail. I don't get that with a lot of people in WoW. I don't get that with a lot of the participants in WoW. What I get from them is that they're just persons that are on TV. And you can enjoy them. But every so often it's just an actor that is fulfilling the role in a wrestling environment. This is not a pro wrestling promotion. And it becomes more evident to me every day when I see things like the wrestling news outlets and websites and things like that completely skip over WoW for almost everything. They have national TV here, and they're still almost not included. I mean, it's fascinating to me, quite honestly. It's really fascinating. But I don't expect it to change so long as David McLane prefers to hire out rather than get other wrestlers. And there are a number of wrestlers out there on the market. There are a number of them. I mean, the Dojo Defenders, even though they're saddled with a lame gimmick, and it's a gimmick that's going to give them a ceiling, because it's only going to go so far. But despite that, there's people out there. There's talent out there. And they're willing to go because, their goal is to be on TV. Be elevated. Be in a promotion that people can see me and I can earn a living from this. But I don't see that ever changing. I think he likes his actors too much. His stunt women, his models. He likes them too much, and we can just train them. And inside of 3 or 4 months, they'll be on TV having a match. If not for the idea that I'm sure there are people there who don't want to rock the boat because that's their job, I am nearly positive that there are people in that locker room that somewhat, I'm not going to say fully, but somewhat share my viewpoint about that. Now, they're in no position to say it, but I am. I don't draw a check from WoW. I don't perceive myself as drawing a check from WoW. So, I can pretty much say what I want about the company. And I try to be fair. I call the good for being good, and I call the bad for being bad. This episode was bad. But I also need to mention that we'll call him the correspondent, Lord Jack Long, who was very kind and delivering information about WoW and being there and whatnot. And we also had a little bit of a mention of UWW. Because I had talked about them briefly too, and I said I wanted to sit down and watch a full one. I did look at UWW 5, and it was terrible. It was terrible with production. Now, they're like on the polar opposite end of WoW. You could argue that UWW has better matches, and they are more grounded in reality than WoW is. Their production is crap. And the fact that they allowed it to go this far is just sad. WoW is on the other end of that, where you can argue that their matches are average due to time constraints on most occasions. Now, a lot of people go raving about WoW matches, long term. But their production is outstanding. The lighting, the editing, every once in a while they may do something I may catch, but that's not saying that it was done badly. It's just I happened to have the eye for it that particular day. So, yeah, they are on polar ends, opposite ends. They are way apart from each other on the spectrum, easily. But I still want to sit down and watch it, even though it was Lord Jack. I agree with you in that it is a painful thing to try to watch a UWW show. I mean, it really is. I absolutely agree with you. I just, want to say that publicly. I also have to say, in a public setting, thank you for those that went and participated in some of the polls and things that I put up there. There are comments, and I love and appreciate the comments. I like reading what other people think about the WoW, women's wrestling, and some of the wrestlers, and so on and so forth. Lindsay Ray Gunn left a comment in one of the posts that I had on the comments page on our YouTube channel. And without reading the entire thing, basically said something to the effect of every wrestling promotion doesn't need to necessarily appeal to the hardcore wrestling fan. I agree with that. Every wrestling promotion doesn't necessarily have to get the super niche wrestling fan is a term that was used. I'll go with that. And I agree with that. It doesn't. It doesn't have to appeal to the super niche wrestling fan. The only caveat that I add to that, because no, WoW does not need to try to necessarily do that, but what they need to try to do is they need to try to get other wrestling fans attached to it. Not necessarily the super niche ones, but they got to get other wrestling fans interested in the product. Casual people are going to come and watch that just because, hey, there's a good looking young girl in tights. And I hate to say that, but that's the truth. I know that because I ran this channel since 2013. And you read the comments and you see that some of them do not look at these matches for any other reason than they just like seeing good looking women in tights. And you just have to accept that. That's just, you can't stop it. You have to accept it. Now, that's not to say that you can't get other people to come in and start watching it too. But that's a lot of what you get. So the caveat that I was getting at here is if they're just looking, WoW, I'm speaking of, if WoW is just looking to remain a high-funded indie out of Los Angeles that just happens to have TV, if they're looking to do that and not change anything or grow or this, that, and the other, I don't think they need to change anything. Stay what they're doing. Find you some actresses and models and stunt women and whoever else. Train them, put them on TV, cycle them in and out. Find you a wrestler here and there that can hit the ground running. If that is what their goal is, then they're doing fine. Just like we're just making content. And that's possible. That might just be their only thing. We just want to make episodes. We just want to make TV. But if I'm going to go off of the assumptions of Jeannie Buss or the statements that she's made, like, you know, maybe one day we'll have our own John Cena or we'll have our own Rock and we'll be able to tour and all this other stuff. If that is what she's looking for, then they're going to have to expand. They're going to have to try to make that built for a broader audience. Because as I have operated this channel, the Women's Pro Wrestling Network, I can firmly and confidently say that we exist in a niche within a niche. It is not the mainstream pro wrestling crowd. The mainstream pro wrestling crowd pretty much has accepted WWE as being mainstream pro wrestling. If they talk about wrestling, in most cases, like, oh, you mean that WWE stuff? It's just the way that it is. They branded themselves to that point. They are Kleenex. Instead of people saying tissue, they ask for Kleenex. That's what they are. But the niche, the indie wrestling fan base is a niche. Within that niche is the indie wrestling women fan base. So it's a niche within a niche. And if they want to get any broader, in my opinion, if they want to have more fans, if they want to be able to tour, if they want to make their own stars and stuff like that, it's got to be booked different. This episode I just reviewed is a perfect example of that. It should be booked differently. But time will tell. Anyhow, that's going to do it for me. I've gone into the full-on review. My feelings of this episode, top to bottom. Wasn't really pleased with it. I hope the next one is better. But we will see. WoW was up and down with me, and this week they were down. This is like a D episode at best, at least in my eyes. And I'm gonna make the case clear. I'm not talking about the matches. I'm talking about the things that built to and the payoff of the matches that they have placed. That is the problem. So on that note, thank you for tuning in to this podcast. And by the way, it is now not just featured as a video on the YouTube channel. It's being filtered out in podcast form, but it's also filtered out in podcast form on Podbean, two greater podcast platforms everywhere. But if you're not on there and if you need to find it and you can't remember, you can always go to the WPNWrestling.com. WPNWrestling.com is the nexus for everything that the WPN does, including all podcasts, including the 24/7 stream that goes day in and night. And if you didn't know what to look at video-wise on our channel when we were producing matches, that's a good place to go. It's always on. You might just stop in and see a face that you find familiar. A young Siren, perhaps. A young Jesse Jones, perhaps. Or Amber O'Neal. Kiera Hogan, who was on WoW, now on Ring of Honor. Harlow O'Hara, who you know as Fury. And a bunch of other ones. So tune in, check it out, look at some old matches. And I will finish off by saying this. That this is Mr. Green saying that this is Mr. Green saying so long, and we will see you on the next go round. Take care, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the WPN's Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling. If you have questions or comments, please contact us via our Facebook or our YouTube channel at the Women's Pro Wrestling Network. If you're new to the WPN, feel free to subscribe to our channel and like our page. We appreciate your support. Thank you again for listening.